Hello everyone, my name is Leonel Perez. I'm a member of the coalition of Immokalee workers. Immokalee is the community.
Hi, my name's Claire, and I also work as an ally with the coalition of Immokalee workers.
Yo vengo de la Florida y Immokalee es una comunidad de trabajadores agrícolas.
So I come from Florida, and Immokalee is a community of largely farm workers.
Y la mayoría somos de Centroamérica, de México y de Haití.
And the majority of us are from Central America, Mexico, and Haiti.
Y Immokalee en idioma indígena de los seminoles, que es mi casa, que es el lugar.
And Immokalee, in the indigenous language where we live, Seminole means my home.
Y estamos a 45 minutos de Naples y de Fort Myers, como 2 horas de Miami.
And it's about 45 minutes from both Naples and Fort Myers, and 2 hours from Miami.
Y la comunidad
And the community that lives there works in picking tomatoes.
La mayoría trabaja como.
So Immokalee is sort of the base of this work, but people travel all over the place to like Central Florida or other places to pick tomatoes. In 1993, a group of workers got together and began to organize to address what were rampant abuses and also wage theft. And so at that time, it was common for a worker to go 2 or 3 weeks even without being paid, and they really had no recourse to address that issue. And there were also rampant other sort of abuses, physical abuses, where people would leave after a day of work and be hurt from that abuse. And so from that time in 1993, 8 workers basically got together and started to raise consciousness in the community as to how they could begin to address these abuses, and then started doing various actions in the community of Immokalee. And so in 1996 was an important day because one worker came out of having picked tomatoes in the fields that day and had been brutally beaten. But at that time, the workers were already organized. And so then there was a march of over 500 workers that got together, marched to the house of this person who beat this worker and said, "To beat one of us is to beat us all." And that really sent a message to the agricultural industry as well as that crew leader that the workers, are united. And so from there, different actions happened. There was a hunger strike. There was also just other strikes of work that lasted several days.
Y eso, el objetivo de tener un diálogo.
And so at that time, the goal of these actions was specifically directed at the growers, the ones who own these large tracts of land, farms, to begin to change these abuses.
Y también era en ese tiempo donde los trabajadores
But at that time, most of the growers weren't really paying attention to the workers' demands. A couple raised the per-piece rate for a bucket of tomatoes, 5 cents a bucket, but that was about it. And basically, the work of picking tomatoes entails you have a bucket, and this one bucket, which is 32 pounds, for that you're paid 50 cents a bucket. And so you have to fill that bucket, you have to run 100 feet, throw it up to someone who then empties it into the truck. And that's the same 50-cent rate that was the same 30 years ago. And so basically the growers, for the most part, rejected to even dialogue with the workers. So workers began to look for other strategies to address these abuses and these conditions. And so after a long time, the analysis emerged that really the ones that had the power in the system were the large buyers of Florida tomatoes, the large corporations. And so, we realized that these corporations have the power to buy tomatoes on a year-round basis, demand a high quality, and demand a low price. And so basically, from there, we began to demand from large corporations that they pay 1 more penny per pound for each pound of tomatoes that workers pick directly to the worker, and also adhere to a code of conduct that respects workers' human rights, which entails them only buying tomatoes from growers where workers' rights are respected. And so from there, because the consumers, you know, the ones who consume from these corporations, we went to them. And so we began organizing with consumers at schools and organizations like this and began to talk to people about the conditions that we were facing. From there, the campaign for fair food, what we call it, was born in 2001, the first campaign being with Taco Bell.
4 años presionando a Taco Bell, boicoteando a Taco Bell, se logró esa campaña.
And so after 4 years of struggle with Taco Bell, we won, and they decided that they would pay the penny more per pound and adhere to this code of conduct.
Y en el 2006 estuvimos aquí presionando a McDonald's también.
And then in 2006, we were actually here in the Chicago area doing the McDonald's campaign. That lasted 2 years, and they also signed on to respect workers' rights. And now we have on board Subway, Burger King, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and other corporations. So Sodexo, Aramark, Bon Appetit, and Compass Group, the food service providers. And so in 2010, after 9 corporations had signed on, because Trader Joe's, which was the 10th, signed on just recently, last February, the growers who had basically refused a dialogue with the farm workers from the beginning finally came to the table, the Florida Tomato Growers Exchange, and also signed an agreement that on 90% of in the Florida tomato fields that they would adhere to this code of conduct. And so basically how that looks is that the first year of the implementation, there were 2 major growers who were working with the farm workers, and just this past year was the first full year of full implementation of this new program, in which now workers are receiving a small bonus depending on how many tomatoes are sold from the farms on which they work to participating buyers.
Y parte de la coalición también, parte del staff, vamos directamente en las compañías antes que los trabajadores empiezan a trabajar. De hablar del nuevo.
And now one thing that we were able to do is go to these companies, directly to these farms, and tell workers what their new rights are under these agreements, and that those rights have to be respected.
Valorar ese derecho. Y también se estableció un tercer partido donde ellos van.
And now also there is a third-party monitoring organization in which that basically forces both the grower and the participating buyer to open their books to the third-party monitoring, so that if an abuse takes place or if a worker isn't getting paid, then they can go directly to that farm and investigate the situation and make sure that it's complied with.
Por ejemplo, años por años hay un 12% de mujeres.
And another thing is that for many years, women who make up about 12% of the farm workers who work in the Florida tomato fields confronted rampant sexual harassment, from verbal to physical. And basically now, if sexual harassment takes place at a farm, then the participating buyer is under the legal obligation to cut their purchases from that farm. And so that incentivizes those abuses to end. So that's how we've gotten to the point of achieving what we've achieved. And so now, why Chipotle? Chipotle is a company that's very quickly growing. And they also are banking on their motto, which is food with integrity. And they say that they buy their meat from places where animals' rights are respected, that they support the environment and small farmers, etc. And that's pretty offensive to us, because how can they, on the one hand, respect these other things that have to do with so-called integrity, and then on the other hand, ignore workers when they know what conditions exist in the fields?
Y Chipotle sale públicamente diciendo que ellos ya están pagando el centavo.
And Chipotle says publicly that they're already paying the cent and that they're already buying only from farms where workers' rights are respected, but they're doing that completely excluding workers from the table at all. And so Chipotle really hasn't made any real commitment to this program like other corporations have done. With other corporations, if another case of sexual harassment occurs or something like that, they have to stop buying from those, but Chipotle doesn't have to, and so who knows how long they will comply or if they will comply.
Y eso
And also, their stance is very dangerous because it puts in danger all of the successes that we've already had, because it opens a window for growers or buyers who don't want to comply with the new sort of norm that's forming in the fields to not be part of that. And so that's why we're pressuring Chipotle. Chipotle here has a festival, and we're going to be there as well. And so basically this festival is Cultivate Festival, and it celebrates their brand, Food with Integrity. They invite these different chefs and musicians and small farmers, but so obviously exclude farm workers from that vision. And so we're going to be there doing a series of creative actions throughout the day. Their festival goes from 11 to 7, and we're going to be there the whole day. There will be actions happening every couple hours, and there's going to be a culminating rally at 5 p.m., and that's at Clark and LaSalle Streets at the south end of Lincoln Park. We have shifts of 2 hours, basically, and we need help passing out flyers and passing out balloons and different things like that we're going to be at the entrances. So if any one of you could commit to a shift, even to just be there a couple hours between 11 and 5, that would be very helpful. Also, if you can arrive at the rally at 5 p.m., that would be great. And there will also be a couple different sort of creative flash mob type actions. And we're going to be having a couple rehearsals for those that'll be short of about an hour, actually this Thursday at 6 p.m. And we still need people to fill those spots. So if you would be able to, those are going to happen at 3 o'clock and 4:45 on Saturday. And if you can come to a rehearsal this Thursday evening, we would love to have your participation. So my email is on the back of this yellow flyer, as well as my phone number. So if you would like any more information or have any questions, feel free to call or email. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you could leave a few more flyers on the table here.